everybody. There with Mike here, the DRF race of the day for Tuesday, October the 24th. Stakes action at Parx. Race number 9 is the Jump Start. Let's take a look at this full field going 7/8 of a mile. These are Pennsylvania breds. This is a pretty strong and evenly matched group, Mike. Butch Reed's got the 2 Baron in here, and Baron has been a hard hitter throughout the Mid-Atlantic region for a long time, closing in on $900,000 in earnings. The key for him is the break.
Yeah, the break, and we'll see if he can get forward here. He does. He kind of seems like a horse who's better when he can be involved from the start. There is some speed to his outside in here. I think he's fast enough to be right up there if he gets out of the gate in this race. Then, and not all he has to do is rebound off of a pretty poor performance the last time we saw him here, but that was on a wet track, and he didn't seem that comfortable.
Butch entered 4 in here, including a 14.90% Natty won the other day at Belmont at the Big A. He's expected to scratch. That'll get the 15 good on you into the race. We're expecting a little bit of pace in this race. We throw up the Timeform US pace projector. Remember, this pace projector will update after scratches and changes. Visit timeformus.com for the updated pace projector. Jean Valjean, the number 6, has a lot of early speed. He's expected to be forward. If Flatheart goes in this race, I think he's fast enough to make the lead. It'll be interesting. I talked to Butch Reed late last week. He might be looking for another turf spot.
Yeah, we'll see if he runs here. I mean, he's obviously a fast horse. He's also way better on turf. He is on dirt. And he'll be cutting back in this race too. So I don't know, man. Maybe he's part of the pace if he runs. Maybe he's not. This is a pretty fast horse. He's 3 for 3 this year, but he's facing a pretty big step up from last year.
The horse with the fastest late pace rating, according to Timeform US, is the 7. That's Keith Sends Hello, who's going turf to dirt. And the last time he tried that, he was able to rally from off a solid pace to win. Let's kick things off, though, with a horse that pulled off an upset at Pimlico last time out. That's the number 1, Dollarization. Caught a short field and caught a good trip, Mike, tracking in behind the 2 favorites who hooked up. I like that he was able to at least stay close to that pace, got to the outside, won very easily, not in the manner of a giant-priced horse.
I know, they're going to pay him $40 here, but he kind of always looked like he was going to win this race. Yeah, he kept right up behind the leaders. He goes on and he wins pretty easily. This is a good field behind him. I wonder what kind of form some of these horses are in, Dan, but he still won that race pretty convincingly. Can he run that well again in this spot?
That's the real question mark, because I know Tim Kreiser is concerned about the inside post. He was concerned about it last time out. He actually had him enter before drew the rail and scratched. Key with this horse is, again, he's got to get out of the gate. He might get outpaced early. You make a very good case about the horses he faced in the Like the Fuse, because I think 2 favorites in that race are way off form right now. Wonder where Craig is. Jackson Traveler, I know you've always had a question of how good he was to begin with, but Dollarization looked good and is coming into this race excellent form. Baron is the number 2. We talked about him. He's a hard hitter. His best race probably wins this.
Yeah, I think it does. We'll see if he can get the right trip. He does. The more you look at his PPs, Dan, the more you sort of realize that if he can't be sort of involved early, maybe he's just not quite as good. He did win this race last year when he just made the front and never really gave that field a chance. 96 Fire Speed Figure beating a few of these same horses that day. I think they'll be on ascent here. I get that he's handled, wet tracks in the past, but really, every time he gets on a floppy steel track, he just doesn't seem like he runs that well. And that was the case last time, man. He never was comfortable to me in that race.
I wonder if the 3 John Dutton's a little bit dirtied up. His most recent start was his first race off a short layoff, and they had him going 2 turns over a very, very wet track. I don't think that distance is what he wanted. He had turf and 2 turns, his 2 and 3 starts back. The race before that, he ran into a runaway. So I think there are some cases to break down his form and make excuses for him. He's lightly raced. He has some upside. He might have the right pace scenario. The question is whether he's good enough. He's slow on paper.
And that's the real question with him. All those, the way that you laid it out there, that stuff's all fine, Dan. Where's his fast race? I mean, he's never run a race that gives him any kind of a chance in here, but maybe he'll take a step forward.
Smooth B, the number 4, goes out for Butch Reed. He's just such a likable horse. He doesn't win very often. He's always going to give it his all. He ran really well in his last 2 races on turf. One, the turf monster was just a ridiculously boggy turf course. I don't even know how they ran that race. He ran very well that day. He's good on dirt. He's good on turf. 6-1 is about as low as I would take on him because he doesn't win very often.
Yeah, that's true. And I think you also have to at least be a little concerned about 7 furlongs for this horse. I mean, it does really feel like it's pushing it with him. He's a little bit better going shorter than this. His absolute best race gives him a real chance in here, but you have to demand a price.
Bourbon Music, the number 5, is a little bit interesting for a pretty underrated trainer. And Mike Moore, this is a horse who Came off of a lengthy layoff first time for this barn, and they found a nice spot for him at Penn National. I mean, he is cruising into the stretch, Mike, well in control of this race. He's going to stay about his business, start a competitive 85 buyer speed figure. I was going to have to do a little bit better in this much tougher spot, but why can't he in his second start off a long break?
Yeah, maybe he can do that. He certainly, it feels like he was ready to go off of his layoff here for the new trainer. He did run a really nice race here, Dan. We'll just see how competitive he can be against better horses once again. If they're going to move him back up in class, they ran him in this race last year against Bear and some of these, and he just got absolutely buried.
Another horse that improved from 3 to 4 is the number 6, Jean Valjean, expected to be 4 lead placed, but a horse that doesn't necessarily need the lead. A perfect 3 for 3 in 2023, including this pace pressing win against fellow Pennsylvania breds at Penn National. Again, he was up close to the pace, and once he was let go, they could not step with him.
Yeah, I like this performance from him too. I'm a little concerned. I like the form that he's in. Obviously, he's going to have to probably improve. He's going to beat this field. I'm concerned that he wins easily off the layoff, and he's won twice. Instead, his figures keep regressing every time they send him out there. He can't afford that happening here as he tries 7 furlongs for the first time.
Pete sends hellos multiple stakes placed. When you give him some pace, and that should happen in a race like this, and you give him a trip, he is capable of outrunning his odds, which are usually big. He's going to, again, repeat that turf to dirt move that resulted in his last victory, a race where he came from off the pace. So he has it in him. I would need more than 8 to 1 because I think we pretty much know what we're going to get with this horse. A buyer in the high 70s, low 80s. With the right tip, though, maybe spices up your exotics.
I agree. Could use him if he was some kind of a big price in here, only because I don't mind the form that he's in, Dan, and I like his running style for this race. I think there could be a little bit of pace in front of him, and he's the kind of horse who could sit off of a little bit and make a run through the stretch.
All things considered, 4 Harper ran fine last time out at a distance way too far over a surface that might not be his best. Wet dirt. He was able to get to the lead going a mile and a 16th. The stablemate ran him over in the lane. Like you, though, Mike, I'd like him better at shorter even than 7/8 of a mile, and I like him on turf.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's won a couple of times on dirt, Dan, but both of those wins, they're not very fast races. They're both just blowouts against horses that just couldn't step with this horse. When they run against good dirt horses, he's really not that competitive. I just think he's way better on the grass.
Prince of Rain, the number 9, to me is somewhat interesting in here because he's one going route to sprint in the past. He's going to get the right setup. And just look at the horses he's been in against, going 2 turns in his last 2 races. Riding with Biden as a graded stakes winner. Nimitz Class the race before that. He won the Parx Dirt Mile earlier this year. So he's been facing good horses. Even though race 3 starts back, that race against Twisted Ride was a solid performance.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I mean, this horse isn't that hard to make a case for, at least to use underneath in this race, whether or not you think he could win this thing. And I actually think he can win this thing. I like him coming back in distance. I do think there should be at least a little bit of pace in front of him. And his recent form so far this year is pretty good.
I just think the layoff is good for him as well after getting his head handed to him by those 2 classy horses. They regrouped, gave him a break, and they found a spot here. He'll be running in the stretch. Wiesen is the number 10. Let's watch Wiesen's last race. This horse is in excellent form. He's a 3-year-old, but he scored his 2 life allowance. He's won his last 2 races. His confidence is sky high. This race was at 7 furlongs. He got pace. He ran him down. Now it's against real competition.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big step up. I'm glad for him, and he does get the job done here. It's a pretty slow race, though, for this horse to be stepping up to face some much tougher horses here. That being said, they ran him on faster off the layoff, and that was probably the best race this horse has ever run.
The 11 is Word on a Wing, and he's a strong contender in this race for trainer Scott Lake. Coming off of a runner-up effort at Parx, going 3/4 on a sloppy track. Word on a Wing's going to run second in here. He's going to swing to the far outside in the stretch. He's going to come with a little bit of a late run. This horse has plenty of back figures that make him interesting. The one time he ran without Lasix, and he's going to run without Lasix on Tuesday, he got banned off.
Yeah, that's not a very good sign for him. We'll see if maybe there was some other issue involved in that race. 2 starts back. It's also worth noting that they stepped him up into a little stake-by-stakes race that day. He's sort of wanting no part of that. So we'll see if he classes up. We'll see if he can race without Lasix. And we'll see what kind of trip he can get from post 11 there. It feels like he wants to be forward, although he rallied pretty nicely in that last one.
Conversely, the 12 one more scoop ran very, very well without Lasix. 2 starts back, winning a restricted stake down at Penn National, unable to get up close to the pace. He just had that field over a barrel on paper. The Fabulous Strikes kind of dropped in prestige over the last few years. What happened last time out? He showed no interest out of the gate. He completely missed it. And I guess he just ran on after that. I don't like seeing horses all of a sudden break slow.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he was pretty badly compromised in that last one, but still, you got to be a little bit concerned about it. The races 2 and 3 back though, those races are pretty good. I don't know if they make him good enough, Dan, but maybe they make him good enough to get a piece. He's another one. I wouldn't take 6-1. That's what the morning line had.
Versatile running style, however, maybe they take him back, try to make one run off what should be a solid pace. Strawberry Treat is another horse. He has one going route to sprint in the past. The last time he sprinted, he was able to come from way off the pace at Penn National over a sloppy track. His last race going 2 turns was okay, Mike. Let's take a look at Strawberry Treat. He missed the break in here. And when you do that in a short field in a race with that much pace, you're up against it. He did okay to be set.
He did. I actually like this horse cutting back though. They've stretched him out for his last 3 starts. I guess the 2 under are fine. I think he's better sprinting. He's just gonna probably sit back and make one run here. I doubt that he's good enough, Dan, but maybe you could use him in there somewhere.
Good effort, nonetheless, from Strawberry Treat, who was cutting back in distance. 90% Matty ran the other day. He got the job done in an off-turf race. Mission accomplished. He's expected to scratch. That gets the 15 good on you into the race coming in from Thistledown. He actually has some figures, this horse, Mike. Maybe he fits well against these Penbreds. Not an easy post.
Yeah, he spent most of the last couple of years on the all-weather surfaces, Dan. But when they put him on dirt, he's handled it pretty well. This is not going to be an easy race for him to begin.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Breeders' Cup right around the corner. Top pick time for our Tuesday race of the day. You're going to go with the old Warrior Baron, who if he can just reach back to a couple of his races in the near past, I think he's going to run his usual solid performance. But again, he's got to get out of the gate.
Got to get out of the gate here. But if he does, I think he's just supposed to be really tough in here, Dan. He to me feels like he's got the best race available. Whether he runs it or not, I guess we'll find out. But it doesn't feel like he can be too short a price in this race.
No, I think the favorite in here will probably be around the 3-1, 7-2 range. And talking to Butch Reed, he doesn't believe the Baron's over the hill. He sees in his morning training that he still has it. Again, as Butchie said, he's got to get out of the gate. Dollarization to me might be the now horse. The problem with horses like this is last time's usually the time for them. Big price last time out. He may be in the 4-1, 9-2, 5-1 range in here. Considering his current form and the way this race sets up, maybe that's fair. I'm going to use him on top. 1-5-8-2 for me, 2-1-5-4 for Mike. It's the jump start on Tuesday at Parx. Good luck.